Yo, what's going on, everybody? My name is Ryan. I'm a CPA, and today I'm going to be talking about why you shouldn't file for a tax extension. Now, I know there's definitely a lot of legitimate reasons to file for an extension, but I'm going to tell you some downsides today that hopefully will maybe keep you more informed and maybe change your mind in the future. But either way, it's important to know that an extension is not just a free 6 months for you to do whatever you want, because there are downsides associated with it if you owe taxes. So here we go. So what is a tax extension? As you know, tax returns for individuals are due on April 15th or somewhere around there if the 15th falls on a weekend. And for partnerships and corporations, they are due on March 15th. So an extension basically gives you an additional 6 months to file your tax return. That means for individuals, the extension deadline is October 15th, and for partnerships and corporations, that is September 15th. With that being said, it gives you extra time to file, right? But what confuses a lot of people is that it doesn't give you extra time to pay your taxes. So basically, if you file for an extension for your personal return and you owe taxes, the taxes are still due on April 15th, even though you have until October 15th to file your return. Now, you might be thinking that doesn't make any sense. It's kind of stupid. Like, how are you supposed to know how much you owe without first preparing your taxes and then filing them? Well, that's kind of the challenge that we run into as professional tax preparers is, we will get clients late March, early April, and there is no chance we can finish their return by April 15th because, we do a lot of taxes. So our backlog is huge. So we got to try to make sure our clients understand, hey, if we're going to engage you at this time, we can't file your return by the 15th. And if you think you're going to owe taxes, then we can't really figure out how much you're going to owe until we actually, start working on your tax return. So, obviously there's a discrepancy there. You might owe taxes, you might not, but you're unsure. So you might have to pay something by April 15th, you might not. Like, how do you know what you should pay? Well, that's part of the challenge here, okay? That's one of the reasons why I encourage people to file their taxes on time rather than filing for an extension and playing this guessing game. So if you don't pay your taxes by April 15th, you are subject to penalties and interest on the unpaid amount of your taxes. So that's why we encourage paying quarterly estimated payments. That would minimize, it will definitely help with any penalties and interest if you don't pay your taxes by April 15th. Or if you have a good guess on how much you might owe, you can just pay that to the IRS and to the state to kind of mitigate the penalties and interest as much as you can. The penalties for not paying taxes on time by April 15th is 0.5% per month of your unpaid amount, okay? So, that annualizes to basically 6% per year. Now, you also have to pay interest on the unpaid amounts, and currently the interest rate is 6% per year, so that's also 0.5% per month. And the interest rate changes every quarter. The IRS updates it every quarter. But right now it's 6% per year. So if you combine those two things, the penalty and the interest, you're basically paying a 12% annual fee for any unpaid taxes if you didn't pay them by April 15th. That doesn't mean your extension is useless because, if you needed extra time to file your taxes, that's good because the penalties for not filing your taxes on time, now keep in mind there's a difference between filing and paying your taxes. The penalty for not filing your taxes on time is a whopping 5% per month, which is pretty significant. And that's 5% of your unpaid taxes, okay? So with both the failure to file penalty and the failure to pay penalty, both of those penalties are limited to 25% of your total unpaid taxes. So once it gets to that point, it's going to stop accruing penalties, but keep in mind interest will still accrue indefinitely. This means that there are people out there who say, oh, I just filed an extension because I know I'm going to owe and I don't want to pay them until October. Well, as you can see now, it doesn't work like that. If you don't want to pay them until October, you're actually screwing yourself because you're accruing additional interest and penalties. Now, if you are due a refund and you file an extension, you didn't pay anything, and you're due a refund, then you don't owe any penalties because, as I mentioned, the failure to file and the failure to pay penalty are imposed on your unpaid taxes due. So if you're due a refund, you already paid all your taxes that you're owed, and then the IRS actually owes you money. So whether or not you file late, if you're due a refund, you don't owe any penalties. If you're in a situation where you needed to file an extension, what should you do? Okay, so obviously there's times where people own like a small minority ownership of a business that requires a K1, and those businesses usually file extensions, and so the ownership won't get their K1s until September, or sometimes you're waiting for corrected tax forms, or you're just missing information that you need to retrieve before you can even start to file your taxes. So you legitimately need an extension. What should you do? So, my recommendation is if you have any inkling that you're going to owe any taxes, you should pay something at the time, by April 15th. Because what that does is if you pay, let's say April 15th comes, you send them $5,000 with your extension, okay? And then in July, you finish your tax return and you see that you owe them $7,000, not including the $5,000 that you sent in April. So now, instead of being penalized and charged interest on $7,000, you're only going to be penalized and paying interest on $2,000 since you pay them $5,000 already, okay? So your penalties and interest will be a lot lower, so that's a good thing. The other thing too, if you pay them too much in April and you get a refund, that's probably like one of the best outcomes in this scenario, because then you're not going to owe any penalties and interest. All right. Now there are people who say, if you get a refund when you do your taxes, then you basically gave the government an interest-free loan for the entire year. And while that's true for like normal folks who file their taxes on time and get refunds every year and all that, that's just simply not the case in this situation, because you're not giving the government an interest-free loan. You are saving yourself 12% of fees for filing an extension. So my recommendation is if you think you're going to owe anything or come close to owing, maybe you might get a refund, you might owe, I would just pay like a guess what you think you would owe. I know this is not the best gauge here, but you really know your financial situation better than any tax professional or tax preparer who hasn't even looked at your documents yet. So I would recommend you pay something, okay? Because the worst case scenario, you minimize your interest and penalties, and best case scenario, you pay too much and you got a refund. Ideally, you would file your taxes on time. You get all your documents you need. If you work with a CPA or any tax professional, ideally you get with them in February or maybe early March at the latest. Make sure you give them enough time to run through your tax return. And that's best case scenario. But obviously, like I said, if you have legitimate reasons to file an extension, you absolutely have to, then you should pay them something if you think you're going to owe. That's all I got for today. Thanks for joining me. If you are new here, thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing to my channel as we continuing to put out helpful content. And obviously, if you think this video is helpful, please smash the like button. I would really appreciate that. And share with your friends and family, whoever you think may find it helpful. All right. Take care for now. I'll see you next week, and stay safe. I'm in the mood for a switch up. I hit the function, hit the rose till I hiccup. I hit the stage and leave with money that's a sticker. She picture perfect, so I told her